Hey everybody, Chuck Barone. Thursday, January the 12th, 2023. The big C.P.I. day is here. The numbers coming in. I think the Fed's going to be happy with the numbers they're hearing. We'll talk about the details of that, but C.P.I. coming in better than expected. Markets, as a result, have a nice day. Before we get into all the markets and everything that happened today, of course, we want to welcome you to the show. Let all of you people know exactly how much we appreciate your support every day. It's what keeps us going. Thank you so much for all you guys do for the show every day. We really appreciate it. Okay, getting into the markets. So CPI comes out today. It's the big news of the day. Coming in today, top line, 6.5%. Core inflation, 5.7%. Markets, yay, going crazy. It's just the greatest thing ever. So, as a result, the stock market today, across the board rally. Nothing explosive like, wow, 1,000-point rally or anything like that, but I think the market's feeling pretty optimistic right now that the Fed is, if not winning their inflation fight, at least making progress. We'll talk about a little bit more about that in detail later in the show. But the market, I guess they have reason to be optimistic. Earnings haven't really cratered. Employment is still strong. Inflation numbers, while not great, coming down. Wow, things are working out. Let's see if they can keep this up. I don't know. I have my doubts. But for today, at least, we have cause to be happy and optimistic. Bond market today, rally. Boom, big rally today. Bond market excited, of course, when they see the inflation numbers coming down. The bond market interprets that as the Fed may not have to raise rates as high, may not have to keep rates as high for as long. So, of course, the market rallies. Actually, today, a nice rally, 10-year rallying, dropping 10 basis points. Now remember, as yields come down, that means prices are going up. Picture a teeter-totter in your mind, right? So when prices are up, the yields are down. When prices are down, the yields are up. So today, of course, prices up, yields coming down 10 basis points on a 10-year, sitting at 3.45%. I mean, it wasn't just that long ago. This bond was up over 4%. Man, that is quite a rally in a short time. The 2-year dropping 9 basis points today, sitting at 4.14%. It's pretty amazing how this bond market's rallying. But I guess, it has caused a rally. We'll see where the rates end up over the, course of the next few quarters. Everybody's picturing this perfect scenario. I don't know if a perfect scenario is realistic, but again, for today, let's be happy. Dollar today, of course, this news, not good news for the dollar. So the dollar tanking almost a full point on the index, 102.23%, lowest number since June of last year. Dollar losing some heft. Now they're anticipating the Fed will maybe relax a little bit on their rates. They're figuring that the euro probably is going to be a little bit more aggressive, raising their rates, so the dollar down. And as a result of the dollar down, of course, its opposite, gold and silver, having a nice little rally today. Gold's really been rocking, man, but today, a really nice rally, up $20.80, $1,897 and change. Amazing rally. I mean, it went from 1,700 and change to the doorstep of 1,900, like zoom, boom, running up gold. So a nice little rally continuing. I'm feeling like I don't want to blow the trumpet too loud, but I've been saying I think metals want to rally. I think we're living it now. Silver not quite as hot, but still a nice day today, up 39 cents, $23.79. I'd like to see it bump above 24 and look like 25 is the number. I think silver's gonna rally, but right now gold is the champ. Wow, it's really rocking. Almost 1,900. I think if it breaks through there as easily as it's gone up to the threshold, you might see $2,000 gold coming up pretty soon. Oil today up 92 cents. Very small day for oil. $78.33 for a barrel of West Texas Intermediate. It's, oil is kind of just sitting there. It's in its trough now. Was 80 to 85 for a long time. Broke out up. Didn't last long there when there was all the speculation, Biden's trip to Saudi and all the stuff going on. Now, boom, coming back down. It was almost down to $70 per barrel. Now coming back up, but still below $80. And I think oil, the market looks uncertain to me right now. The good news is, with oil coming down, that's a lot of what we're seeing in this CPI number. And again, we'll talk a little more about that. Bitcoin today have an amazing rally, $1,279, 18,818. It looks like Bitcoin might want to make a run up toward 20,000 again. I really haven't seen any news today about why this rally is occurring. Maybe you guys in the comments might want to say something about it to give not only me the information, but all the other people who read the comments and watch the show. Nice rally for Bitcoin. Maybe it's not quite dead yet, is it, guys? Anyway, moving on to the news today. C.P.I, 6.5%, down from 7.1% last month, down from its peak of 9.1%. So, say what you will, top line at least, it looks like these interest rate hikes and the resulting slowdown, and especially in real estate and automobiles, helping to bring down this core inflation or this top line inflation number quite a bit. Looks like the rates are being effective. We'll see now. Everybody placing their bets in this market about what comes next, right? What comes next? So this gives the Fed plenty of leeway to continue to be aggressive or to kind of slacken things up. I think argument can be made both ways on that. Core inflation, 5.7%, not a great number. Neither is 6.5, truthfully. But when you compare them to last month's numbers, yes, a good month or a good month for CPI. I think the interesting thing here is last month was actually a deflationary month where prices came down, not just went up less, but actual month-over-month prices came down. Of course, the big culprits there are used cars, which were actually going up last year. We joked about that on the show a few times. But now, of course, coming back down to earth like everything ultimately does, bringing down these numbers. Of course, gasoline prices coming down across the country. So a great CPI. Good job. Reason to be happy today. We'll see what comes next. I mean, I think that the Fed's going to continue to be strong in this thing. They're taking the lessons from the 70s pretty seriously. In the 70s, they thought the fight was won. Things were kind of happening then like they are now. The Fed thought they could relax things a little bit to support the economy and employment, which were different circumstances then than they are now. And inflation came roaring back, and the Fed ultimately had to raise rates higher than they started, right? So let's say they brought rates up to 7, lowered them back down to 6.5, inflation comes flying back up. Now they actually had to raise them to 7.5 or 8% to get that inflation number back down. The Fed learning some lessons from those years. I think they're determined to not make the same mistakes. Now that could backfire on them and they could end up being too aggressive, keeping rates too high for too long. I hate to be anybody here talking good about any aspect of the Fed or the government or, these groups doing well. But I guess, we want to give them a bunch of crap when they're doing not so well. We've got to give them a little bit of a pat on the back. Now, 6.5 is not an exciting number to me, but it seems to be having an effect. coming down from the peak especially. You know, people were worried when it was 9.1 that we could see double digits even higher. So interesting times, interesting stuff on this CPI today. We broke it down. We'll get into some details of that tomorrow on what was up, what was down. We still haven't seen much relief with eggs, but grocery prices in a lot of cases starting to come back down to earth. Not so much the fresher stuff, but you know, the stuff that's unhealthy, of course, coming down the fastest. We'll see what happens now when the unemployment stuff comes in. You know, that's the other side of the coin, and it certainly seems like the employment numbers are going to stay hot. So we'll see where those numbers come in and what kind of offset that is to this decent CPI numbers today. But here's the thing, guys. Here, let me get a sip of this. Hold on one second. Here's the deal, guys. You're going to hear now all kind of crazy, confusing dumbasses out there. You're going to start talking. You're going to hear the usual language, right? You're going to hear pause, pivot, Goldilocks, soft landing, which I've already told you what that looks like. Picture the Hindenburg exploding into flames. Because if anybody believes that the fight's over on this inflation thing, that, you know, our work is done here and we're going to get this painless bring down and change, that everything's just going to be so wonderful and there won't be any setbacks and everything's just hunky-dory, they're dreaming, man. 6.5 is not a good inflation number in the United States. Obviously it's better than 7 or 8 or 9, but, you know, how is it compared to 2 or 0? Not so great, man. Not so kind of sucky, actually, right? Now, we got a lot of work to do to get that inflation number down. I think that we can safely say that the era of, 3% or less mortgages will probably not be coming back, which is actually not a bad thing. Money should be a little more dear than it has been because cheap money creates bubbles, creates bad habits, creates this idea that borrowing is good, and it isn't. Well, borrowing is great. Getting money is always great. Paying back the loan is what's not so great, right? Especially when the lender, all the terms are in his favor, especially nowadays with credit cards and rates rising. But anyway, so guys, be careful who you're listening to. It's going to be a tough fight. We're still going to get, before it's said and done, we're going to see another 0.75 of a point interest rate increases. However they do it, doesn't really matter. And now they're talking about this, they're going to only be raising rates by a quarter starting at the end of the month. The 31st of January into the 1st of February is their open market committee meeting. Well, everybody's already kind of had that penciled in. We already figured there would be a 0.25 point increase there. I personally wish they would just bump it a half again and then add a quarter later. And now you're over 5%, which has kind of been their target, their terminal rate target. You get a situation where the increases are over, so the shocks to the market are over pretty much as well. You have a situation where as the market digests those higher rates and comes to terms with them, if everything else stays equal, and earnings are decent, employment is decent, everything else, well, it looks like things could work out okay for us. The working guy, the schmuckatellis, Joe Sixpack, that's us, right? So it's exciting to, again, I hate to be talking in any way like everybody's doing great and it's all over and everything's wonderful. But at least can we have a happy day once? It's been gloom and doom and everything negative, it seems like, since we started this show. Well, while things are not great, it seems like they're trending in the right direction. This is not about politics or anything like that, just about numbers. And, of course, I have my doubts about some of the veracity of these numbers, too, and I'm sure I'll see a lot of that in comments. But for a day at least, let's have a happy one, right, guys? Anyway, tomorrow we'll have a lot more detail about this CPI stuff. We'll be getting some employment data. I'm sure as time goes by, we're going to try to flesh out some ideas of what could happen that could be shocks to the market that could cause the Fed to have to maybe increase the rate again, faster, higher. So we'll talk more about it. We're going to keep you guys prepared with news you need. In the meantime, stick to the fundamentals we've been talking about. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up the week. Until then, everybody, take care. Thanks.